G'day guys, welcome back. Just doing what I can with this terrible weather. So at the moment I'm looking at getting this drive shaft ready for when it all goes in the car. So I've got here a auto R31 tail shaft, which was given to me for free from Andrew Stanmore. So big thank you to Andrew. It's got what seems to be quite a new center bearing on it, which is good because the kit I bought, I ordered a kit, a center bearing kit for a tail shaft, but it's actually like a uni joint kit for a tail shaft. These feel fine. Plus I got to take it apart to swap the bearing over anyway, so I'll repack it. So I don't think I'm going to use that. I'll take it back. So lucky that this is quite fresh because this is what I need. This is a manual tail shaft, which was given to me by Daniel Eldershaw. Or sold to me by Daniel Eldershaw at a very good price, so big thanks to him as well. So just having a look there, the tail shafts, the rear sections are the same, and the auto one has a better uni on the back. So what I'm going to do is split the auto and the manual one, take the good center bearing off the auto front half, put it on the manual rear half, and then put that back into the auto. Put it on the manual front half and put that back onto the auto rear half. That way I've got two. This uni's pretty good. That uni's pretty good. This uni is fine. And, well, CV, I suppose you'd call it, is fine. And this center bearing's good. So we've got this one apart, and upon closer inspection of the center bearing, it is actually quite cracked around there. So given how much difficulty there is in actually changing it, I'd rather just put a new one in, because I don't want to be having to put another one in a couple of track days sort of thing. So anyway, got it apart. Probably leave that one together for now, and I'll just buy a new center bearing. So it's another thing that's gonna have to happen next week. So another loss, another lose, but it is what it is. At least it'll be nice and fresh when it goes back together, I suppose. Alright, so this CV that actually came off this manual shaft, the boot's fine, CV's fine, so I'm just going to reuse that and take that CV kit back, because that's money I don't particularly need to spend. Although it'd be easy to say, why not just do it while you're doing the shaft, but the obvious elephant in the room is that I'm not actually sure how long the RB20 box is going to live for. So I really don't want to go throwing too much money at this shaft setup, because if I go to an RB25 box, I'm going to be going to a different shaft anyway, which will probably be a one-piece shaft. So if I can get away with reusing that, I will. I'll get a new center bearing. So all I've done here is combine all of the parts that I was going to use, which is the best out of the two. So I got the better CV, all the bolts that aren't wrecked. I picked all the best C-clips and covers, and that obviously that retainer plate for the center bearing. So buy a new center bearing for this, put all this back together when it gets here, and that'll be the shaft. I'm just going to actually clean this yoke up on the wire brush. You really don't want any of this corrosion or anything on the yoke, because that will start or wear at the output shaft seal on the box, which you don't want. So I will clean that up on the wire brush while it's apart. The rest of this stuff will all just go back down to the storage shed for, I don't know when I'll ever need this, but it'll be down there. Much better there, after a bit of a clean up on the wire brush. So anyway, that's going to be my tail shaft assembly with the new center. Now that this is off as well, you can actually see how badly that's cracked in there. So yeah, not worth going through the effort of putting that in just for it to have it tear apart very soon. So alrighty, so the next thing I'm going to be looking at is putting my fresh ball joints in my new lower control arms. Now these are S13 lower control arms, which I had decided to go once I decided to go with the GK Tech roll center correction kit. So these are actually sold to me by a bloke in Ipswich. His name's Daniel. I'll chuck his Instagram handle up here somewhere. So big thanks to Daniel for supplying these, buying or selling them to me at a very good price. And I've got some new ball joints to press into these. Now the thing with putting ball joints in your LCA is your ball joints are dependent on the knuckle. So make sure you buy the right ball joints for what knuckle you get, so that the tape is correct. So I'm going to be running S13 knuckles with the S13 roll center correction, so S13 ball joints it is. So just got to take the C-clips off these and press them out. Use the press over there, and then press these bad boys in and have some nice fresh ball joints. Now the actual bushes seem to be fine, so I'm not going to worry about replacing those. They look fine. I'm just gonna leave them. Alrighty, so it is just pissing down here, so hopefully you can still hear everything. Anyway, did get the ball joints out of the control arms. Absolute prick of a job. Couldn't even use the press because of the way that the control arm is shaped. There's not really any way to support it to press them out. So I actually ended up just pinching the tip of it in the vise and just supporting the top with the hand and just hammering them out with a hammer. So real prick of a job, but got them out. So I got some fresh ones to put in, which are actually greasable, which is awesome. That's handy. And these are the knuckles that I bought. If you guys remember when I bought these, one of them had a hub on it and the other one had an LCA on it. So I got two knuckles but only one hub and one LCA. The problem I had was the one that had the hub on it did have a hub nut and retaining washer, but the one that didn't come with the hub didn't have a nut and washer, and I was dreading finding one. Adam gave me these 5 nuts just to try, and one of them actually fits. So super lucky with that. Means I've got a nut. The washer is a bit of a funny one because it's keyed. As you can see, it's keyed on the spindle. So it actually sits in there on the key and the nut pushes it against the bearing. So I might have to try and look. I did have a look online. You can get these online for about $40. It's a lot to pay, but I just can't see myself making something like that out of anything. So I'm pretty much just gonna have to buy one, I think. But I'm stoked that that nut's there because I could not find one of them. So that's awesome. As far as the backing plates, I was going to take them off, but even though they're real sad, they're still going to protect the inside of the bearing from stuff getting in the back of it, so I think I'll leave them on there. So anyway, getting there towards it. Alrighty, so after all that, I've gone down to get my hubs and discs that I plan to be running, and the bloke I bought these off has actually left me the hub nuts and washers. So after all that, I had them all here the whole time, so glad I didn't go buy anything, and yeah, I suppose that's real lucky, so that's awesome. I bought these off a bloke from Caboolture along with front brake calipers, so I got them all from him. Looks like these 3 studs have been cut. I'm assuming someone must have been running bolt-on spacers and had to trim them up or something, I don't know, but I'm gonna have to get 3 new studs for those. But yeah, I'm gonna run these hubs and these discs on these knuckles with the brakes that I got from this guy as well, which I'm gonna have to go down again and get. So I'm gonna have to go get wet again. Alright, so this is somewhat the assembly. Obviously got the max speeding rods, coilovers. I don't know how long I'm gonna go yet. I've got to wait till I get them in the car. These are just M12x75 high tensile bolts I got from Bunnings. I put them on with a flat end spring washer. It's important to use a spring washer so that they don't rattle loose. And then I've still got enough room if I was really worried about it to put a lock nut. So if I find that these come loose at all, there's enough room on that bolt to put a lock nut on it. So that's all good. Hubs are on. I'm not going to bother tightening them down too much at this stage. I've still got to change these 3 studs. I've got to get 3 new studs. And I can't put the calipers on the hubs because I don't actually have the bolt to bolt the calipers to the hubs. I'll probably do somewhere, but it's raining and dark, so I'm not going to go looking. So I'm fairly certain that the ones that bolt the caliper to the knuckle on the R31 that are in there should be right. They should be the M12 fine thread. So I'm hoping to just flog them out of that when I change it all over. So that's about as assembled as it can get at this point. So like I said, nothing super tight yet. It's all just assembled so that it can all go in the car. Pretty much just doing my best to try and get everything ready as much as I can so that when I can get the car up here and start doing it, and when I do have my caster correction piece from GK Tech, it's obviously going to be a very quick and easy process to put everything in, is what I'm going at. So although it's annoying that you got to keep trying to get little parts here and there, and then you get affected by rain and can't get the car up here, it's frustrating. It's just a matter of working towards a point where when it does happen, everything's going to happen really fast. So that's where I'm trying to get at. I would need to clean up these pads a bit. I've been touching them with my greasy hands, so I need to brake clean those a bit. Discs, sorry, not pads, discs. Still plenty of pads left on those. I'm happy to run them. No need to get any more. I'm hoping these aren't seized. They've been sitting for quite a while, as you know. So hopefully not. Anyway, just try them and see, fix things as I go. So yeah, time to get these ball joints in these lower control arms now. Alright guys, we're having an absolute nightmare trying to get these new ball joints in. So I've chucked the ball joints in the freezer, obviously without the boots on them. So I'm going to leave them in the freezer tonight, and then in the morning probably heat these rings up so that they drop in. So see you in the morning for that. What is going on guys? So I've had those ball joints in the freezer all night. So I'm just going to heat this up. the heat gun. Set it just as hot as it goes. And yeah, hopefully some really cold ball joints out of the freezer, and this heated up with a heat gun should just drop right in, hopefully. So we'll find out very soon. Real cold. Alright, so that didn't work, so we'll try something else again. Alright, so we got one in. An absolute prick of a saga. It's pretty much impossible to film how we did it, but I'll give you a look. So we set this up with on the press with a big socket, and just sort of sat the arm upside down on the big socket and pressed the ball joint through it. So same principle, ball joint in the freezer, heated up the arm, and yeah, went in. It was still a massive prick. Absolute prick of a job. Would not recommend. 0 out of 10. What a pain in the ass. I don't know if I told you last night as well, but these new ones are actually greasable. They've got this grease nipple that you can put on the bottom of them, so that's really cool. Pretty happy with that. But yeah, getting these in, what a prick. It's really been a saga that's really annoyed me. But anyway, it's alright, we're getting there. Just gotta wait for the other one to cool down in the freezer again. Get it in the same way. Be happy days. Right, while I'm waiting for that to cool down, I'm just gonna run. I've got some parts in the car that I could put down in the storage shed, and I'm gonna grab my gearbox and bring it up so that I can start looking at potentially getting it ready. So that's what I'll do at the moment. At some point today, I've got to get the Falcon on the hoist as well and have a look at the front end. It's starting to do some pretty funny stuff. I think the ball joints in it are pretty well gone, probably uppers and lowers, so I'll get in and have a look at it anyway. And Rex has asked me to take the XR6 Turbo for a bit of a joyride, just because Rex wants to make sure that the power steering pump's not making a noise anymore. Hopefully he's fixed it, so he wants to know that today. So sun's sort of coming out, which is nice. Probably starting to get dry enough where I might be able to get the 31 up here, but I need to go back to the coast today, so I don't know if I will bother or not. I might just work on maybe getting the flywheel and clutch and box on the motor and getting everything ready. So just a pain in the ass that the weekend goes the way it did. Absolutely too wet to get the 31 up here, so I couldn't do anything on it. And then the day I've got to leave, sun. So what a pain. You got them both in. What an absolute prick. But now that we know how to do it, it's a bit better. But yeah, what a pain in the ass. But anyway, as you can see, that's pretty much control arms and fresh ball joints ready to go. All that's ready to pretty much go in. Just got to put my new studs in that hub and that. So that's just about the front end components pretty much ready. I've got my new rack ends and steering heads over there as well. So rack ends and tie rod ends, sorry. So that's pretty much ready to go. When my Gearbox roll center correction kit comes, should be able to just whack it all in, do it all up, and yeah, it'll be good times. So alrighty, so I just had a big cleanup, as you can see. Got just about everything condensed back onto the one pallet. So all my front end components, everything's there. Grab my gearbox, brought it up. So I need to go for a walk down the paddock to find my other old gearboxes. I need to find my carrier, and obviously I've got a new bearing to put in the carrier. I need to find the little ball for the clutch fork. I need to find the clutch fork and spring and all that stuff, all that cool stuff. But I need to find a speedo drive as well, but I've got my shifter here that I got from Adam. It's under this box, I think. Oh, there it is there. So everything's there. Managed to clean up my little table a bit, so that's good. But at the moment I'm working on mounting my thermos to my radiator. So this is my old radiator out of my 31. This is just a set of AU thermos on a shroud that I pulled off, I think I pulled it off a Sylvia or something. So they fit up there pretty well. Obviously just got a little bit at the bottom that's exposed, but the shroud's still going to draw a shitload through, which is great. So I just need to make some brackets to mount pretty much off here onto that, drill some bolts through, and probably just off the bottom up on an angle a bit, and that should hold it fine. Might just have to drill them out a little bit more, and that's pretty much how I plan on mounting my thermos on there. So I'm pretty happy with how well that sizes up, so that's good. Very good. So to make these brackets, I'm just going to be using my trusty old Skylight Alley mounts that I always use for just about everything. I've still got heaps left, and these things have just come in so handy. So first thing I do is just stick it in the vise and just turn this into a complete straight piece and start from scratch. And then I'll measure this up and fold one up and drill it out. So as you can see here, we've got one pretty primitive mount made up, but it's going to do the job. So that's going to work fine. Just got to drill and bolt that, and it's actually going to work on all 4 corners just fine. So I'm pretty much just going to imitate this another 3 times. One thing with working with Ali is when you're grinding and stuff, it gets real hot, so I like to keep just a bucket of water just to drop it into after you finish grinding or drilling or doing whatever you got to do. So there you have it, guys. Got 4 nice little Ali brackets for my shroud, and it's looking pretty good. I'm pretty stoked with that. So I'm just going to mark these holes, take the shroud off, drill them, and then between the shroud and the radiator, because of vibration and stuff, the shroud does have rolled edges. They actually roll and go underneath. It's been made pretty well, so there's no sharp edges on the radiator, so it probably would be alright. But when you're in a drift car and you're looking at sort of bouncing around the track sideways, and then you're potentially down the road looking at solid engine mounts or anything like that, you're starting to look at massive sort of vibration, which alley on alley could become a problem. So I've got this just high density stick on foam, so I'm just going to stick that on the lip around the edges of the shroud where it contacts the radiator, and that way it will go on and these will pull it in, and it'll have something nice to actually push down on, and also won't be directly contacting the radiator, which I'll be a bit more comfortable with. So just going to mark these and drill these, and put bolts in obviously from the back, so the heads are on the back, so there's no risk of them rubbing into the radiator or doing anything silly, and start looking at how I'm going to actually mount to these clips. So here's the shroud with this nice high density foam all the way around, and just M6 hardware holding this on the brackets, so it's ready to plonk and mount on the radiator now. Also, I've bench tested these fans to confirm that they work. They do definitely work, so we're all good. Alright, so here we have somewhat the finished product. As you can see, it's pulling down on that foam nice and firm, so it's nice and firm on the radiator, but it's not contacting the radiator, it's not going to vibrate, which is great. This M6 hardware, I've used spring washers and nylock nuts. These bottom holes I used M5 hardware for because I didn't want to drill out these little holes in the radiator sides. So for those I used M6 spring washers because I only have M6, I don't have any M5, and I also lock nutted them. And then at the top is just the standard hardware used for the shroud. I'm pretty sure I just found these really coarse thread body bolts, which is obviously what was used to hold the shroud down. So they're 2 different bolts, but they work. So yeah, I bench tested the fans, made sure they work, so the fans would work, and they're all good. And hopefully with all this stuff on here, this should never, with the vibration of these fans and the vibration of the car, this should hopefully never rattle loose or work its way loose at all. So that's really awesome. So it's another one of those little jobs that takes a lot of time, but it's done. Which is good. So even though I'm not making the progress I wanted to this weekend because I wasn't able to get the car up here, it's still all working towards that end goal of getting the car finished. So having all these little jobs done is good because it means all this stuff's ready to just go in the car when it gets here. I don't have to spend time doing it. So still all working towards the same goal. It's just frustrating that I didn't make bigger progress this weekend, but anyway, it's looking good. I decided to go thermos, not that I've ever had any troubles with the clutch fans setup, it's just the fact that OEM clutch fans at this stage are starting to get quite old. Most of them are fairly cracked and about to fly apart, so then your option's a GK Tech fan and that sort of thing, which are all great, but I just find thermos more convenient. You can control them independently, you can have running or 2 running. Just makes it easier. Not to mention the fact that we actually got given like a whole pallet load of thermos at one point, so we have just thermos coming out of our arse, so it made sense to use thermos instead of going for the clutch fan. So alrighty, so next thing I really want to work on getting ready is the gearbox. So as you guys saw before, I need to find a carrier, I need to find a clutch fork, clutch fork, sorry. The ball the fork sits on and the actual clip that holds the fork in. I'm hoping I've got one of my other broken boxes. I also need to find a speedo drive. So yeah, going for a hunt for some of that stuff. Now I know, I'm pretty sure I've got one of my old boxes is under this top, and I think I've got another old box over that side. So let's see what we can find out. Alright, so that box had the clutch fork and the ball, but no carrier and no speedo drive, so hopefully the other one does. Alright, so this is this is getting pretty ridiculous. This is a perfect example of I suppose you win some, you lose some. So got this box. I found it actually has a carrier in it, which is awesome, so I've got a new bearing for that, but having that carrier is obviously very important. This box also has the speedo drive head, which I need. Also has some that one's pretty heavy going, but that one looks like a good sensor. So I need the head off that speedo drive. But I also found it had just this bag of goodies, and in here there's actually another clutch fork. There's actually an engagement pin for a slave. So yeah, I'm not even going to go too much into it, but I had a hard time finding an engagement pin for a slave, someone that sold one, because I thought I didn't have one. And the reason I didn't want to just use a bolt or something is because it actually rides on a rubber boot on the slave, and I didn't really want a bolt thread riding on the rubber boot. But as it turns out, I had one here the whole time. So this is what happens when you keep too much crap, guys, is you just forget what you have and then you end up buying it anyway. So I've got another fork there, that's the second one. There's even a like a soft clutch line. So, bloody hell. Some more IS sensor heads, that sort of thing. Crazy, crazy. Another shifter plate, another slave. I'd say that slave's probably cactus, but that's right. I've got a new one anyway. And some covers for the back. I'd say those are probably bolts for the slave. Yeah, crazy. Crazy how much stuff you've got lying around. So anyway, lesson learned, I suppose. I don't know what lesson it is, but I'm assuming there's a lesson learned. Alrighty, got my new speedo drive in. I had to flog this off the other box. For those of you playing at home, the RB30 and 20 gearboxes, the speedo drive is just held in with like a retainer plate and a bolt, which this one didn't have, so just flog that off the other box. Both these sensors look fine, so I'm going to leave them in it. So next thing is going to be the carrier. I'm just going to press off the bearing off the carrier with the press, probably clean the carrier up a bit, and then press on the new bearing, and then it can go on. So there we go, out with the old, in with the new, pressed on nice and easy. I was going to clean up the carrier with the wire brush, but I just cleaned it up in the parts wash and it actually came up fine, so that's all I'm going to do there. So that's my carrier with my new throwout bearing ready to go in. So next thing is going to be putting in the ball for the clutch fork. So with these, it's important to Loctite them. I'm going to put a fresh spring washer on it as well. This is really not something you want to come loose or break because it's a box out job to fix it. I've had one come loose before in a box, which I had to try and fix. We had to try and put it back in through this clutch fork hole to get at that, and it was a real pain in the ass. We did get it, but yeah, it was not much fun. There was plenty of swearing happening, so definitely want to Loctite that, and I'm going to put a fresh spring washer on that as well. Alright, so that's all in there with its fresh spring washer. I'll just use some of this blue Loctite thread seal, and that should be fine. Hopefully that doesn't give me any issues. Alright, so now for the carrier, I'm just going to sort of smear a heap of grease on the inside of it, and it just slides on as it do. So there you go, the carrier is on and greased up. I've also just greased up the ball where the clutch fork pivots on as well. So now it's just time to get the fork in. The fork actually clips, there's actually a wire clip on the carrier that the fork clips into, and it also clips over the ball, and then obviously shoots out of the box. So it's can be a bit of ginning around to get it on. You sort of just got to slide this and contort it and get it on both and slide it back, but that's just how you got to do it. That's how it goes. That's how it works. Clutch fork just slave pushes on the fork and pushes the bearing and engages. So next thing, I'll probably put my new slave on the box as well. I may as well, I suppose. And after that, the box is somewhat ready to go in. Alright, so I've actually changed my mind. I've decided to leave the slave off just because it does push on the fork just a little bit, and I believe that may cause issues trying to get it onto the motor if it's trying to sort of engage that a little bit. So I think it's just going to be easier to leave it off. I'll put it on once the line's on and everything's done, so that's just going to make life a fair bit easier. But at this stage, the box is pretty much ready to go in. Obviously you can't put the shifter on until it's in the box. What I may do, because I haven't yet, I might just throw the shifter on it and just go through the gears, make sure it actually goes into all gears. But apart from that, this box is pretty much ready to go in, which is cool. So that's going to be this weekend for the 31, really. It's been a pretty good weekend, spread over the past probably 3 episodes, I think. I think this episode's going to be quite long. Sorry for that, guys. I hope you enjoy it. But yeah, a bit of a shame it rained most of the weekend, so I couldn't actually do anything on the car. But there's so much little stuff that's now done, and there's so much stuff, it's pretty much almost ready to just get the car up here and start slamming it all in. So with any luck, next episode I'll actually be putting most of the stuff in the car, and hopefully that will probably be next weekend if I get time. I've got a bit of custom work coming up, so see how that goes. I've got to go get some fittings and stuff, as we saw, fuel fittings and that, so there's a few things I've got to go source. So I'll go sort that out, and then hopefully, yeah, next weekend we can work on really getting all this stuff really into the car. So anyway, now I'm going to take the XR6 Turbo for a joyride, and I've got to put my Falcon on the hoist and have a look at the front end. So I'm going to do that and then head home. Thanks for watching as always, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to donate to the Shave for a Cure fundraiser. I'll be shaving my hair on the 30th of June, so please donate if you have a spare dollar. There's no donation too small. If you'd like a sticker, I'll leave a link in the description, and I'll see you next time. Cheers, guys.